Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:31, and I'd like to begin open session tonight. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we'll begin with agenda-related public comments. Marilyn, do we have any agenda-related comments? Thank you. There are 2 opportunities for audience members to address the Board of Education. We appreciate your participation, but please understand we do not engage in dialogue. If there is a specific question or comment that requires follow-up, the appropriate administrator will respond at a later time. Individuals addressing the board are expected to conduct themselves with respect and civility pursuant to Board Policy 830. Individuals shall not use vulgar or obscene language or impede, delay, disrupt, or interfere with the board meeting. In the event this occurs, you will receive 1 warning regarding your conduct. If the behavior occurs again, you'll be notified that you're in violation of trespassing and will be asked to leave our property. Failure to comply immediately and cooperatively with a directive to leave will result in the involvement of law enforcement officials. Marilyn, can you please call our first speaker?
James Williams.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have 4 children. My 2 oldest graduated from LT. They're now finishing college and grad school, and I was very happy with their high school education. My 3rd child is adopted, was born in Guatemala, and he's a sophomore at LT. My 4th child is adopted, was born in the Chicago area, and he is a freshman at LT. I'm very concerned about their high school education. As their adoptive parent, I committed to providing them with a quality education, and the recent changes have caused me to have grave concerns. Many concerned parents are voting with their feet and their resources, choosing private schools over LT, even if their older children went to LT. Last board meeting, the administration used the words unintended consequences when referring to the impact of the new grading policy. The new grading policy did not count homework and allowed for summative retakes. As a result, the students did not do their homework and did not study the subject matter until immediately before a test. The administration now calls this an unintended consequence. I call it an obvious result, and I'm concerned that it wasn't seen before when the policy was being put in place. It's human nature, and in particular teenage nature, to choose entertainment over hard work if the hard work does not count for anything. Teenagers are going to choose TikTok, YouTube, video games, socializing, and other activities over homework that does not count. The administration has now modified the new grading policy by making homework count for 10% of the grade only if it helps the grade. This is just another way of saying homework is extra credit. Again, teenagers are going to choose other activities over extra credit. Most people learn more from their failures than from their successes, and people learn more from hurdles and challenges than they do from a soft, forgiving grading policy. The grading policy should be consistent, but it should not be consistently soft. It should be consistently rigorous. Homework should count positively and negatively. There should be only 1 mulligan or 1 retake per semester. This should be enough to help with extenuating circumstances, and this rule can be applied consistently in all classes easily. Finals should count. Students should have the challenge and the opportunity to show they mastered the subject matter. The current policy of allowing students to opt out of finals places preserving one's grade over learning the material. Last meeting, the board members' questions showed that they believe the new grading policy is a mistake. However, the board and the parents are being told that the decision comes down to the educational research. The administration needs to listen to the parents. Using undefined and undisclosed educational research as a reason to dismiss parent concerns is a mistake. Thank you.
Marilyn, do we have our next speaker?
Ellen Smith.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Ellen Smith. I live in Western Springs and have 2 children who have graduated from LT. and 2 who are currently enrolled here. When I was preparing what I wanted to say here this evening, back in May, I was thinking I wanted to ask you for changes. But really, these are not changes. What I'm asking for you is for you to bring things back to what they used to be. My 3 things I want to bring back are weighted final exams, a homework policy, and a dress code. Back in May, when my son was sitting around during final exam week, his peers were studying and preparing for their final exams in nearby schools such as Nazareth, Bennett, and Fenwick, and my son was sitting around the house. My son had no incentive throughout this semester and during final exam week to work, to review, and retain material in classes. My college-age children absolutely must know how to do this. I ask that you bring back weighted final exams, and they should count. Number 2, I'm asking you to bring back graded homework. Homework that is not graded is not completed. Students are not doing it because it does not count. We all know that doing homework reinforces what students have done during class. After having done the homework, the teacher then goes over it and makes sure the students are understanding it. Number 3, I would like some sort of dress code. For me, being the mother of 3 boys, I find it is imperative you reinforce some sort of policy. The way many girls in this school dress for class every day is inappropriate and distracting for young men. A lot of male teachers here cannot say anything about how inappropriately dressed the girls are because they'd be probably considered perverts. I want LT to be great again. I want my children, my students, to be prepared for college as my daughter was when there were better policies in place. Many of my nieces and nephews attended LT and were prepared for college. They were ready for all the challenges college had for them because LT prepared them so well. LT can do better.
Marilyn, do we have somebody next?
Kristen Violante.
Hello. My name is Kristen Violante, and I'm a parent of a soon-to-be junior and college freshman. I was also spent 8 years on the school board at Pleasantdale School District. Thank you very much for your service. I know it can be challenging as well as rewarding, and thank you for all that you do for our community. I attended my first LT board meeting last week, and like many other parents, I'm very concerned with the current grading and testing policies. I have a high achiever who do not feel challenged as well as a middle-of-the-road learner who, quite frankly, abuses the retakes. I came away from the meeting both encouraged and frustrated at the same time. I was encouraged by some of the feedback and questions by board members in regards to finals, retakes, and homework. Many of the points made and questions asked by board members were exactly some of the same concerns and questions that I have. I was frustrated, however, at some of the feedback from the staff and administration. In regards to why students do not take final exams, I was very confused. I heard that an answer, something similar to a few years ago, many students were opting out of math and science finals. I also heard that staff expressed concerns about the equality of final exams in various subjects. Different subjects are going to take different exams. Throughout the discussion, I never heard any data-driven answer or detailed educational explanation for why the kids were not taking final exams. I would think that a decision to not take finals would come after extensive data meetings and more educated explanation would be revealed. I was also confused as to why the administration had decided to now only include 10% of homework or formatives. I don't know exactly when the decision was made to not include homework, participation, formatives, attendance, midterms, or final exams in student grades, but I would think that a drastic grading and testing policy change would be something that is discussed and approved by the school board. Much like the recent discipline policy, I understand that as a board member, we look to the educational experts, which is the administration, to collaborate with staff and make educated decisions regarding policies such as the grading and testing policies. Sometimes, however, the administration and board need to evaluate whether these policies are effective for a majority of the students and if they are in the best educational interest of the children. From what I understand, parents, students, and some staff have all expressed concerns about the grading and testing policies. I know the administration convened a committee to discuss these policies, and some changes have occurred. In my opinion, these changes are not enough. I don't think these policies enhance the accountability of the students, nor do they help motivate the students. I also don't think these policies are preparing our kids for post-high school pursuits, whether it be the trades, college, or the workforce. In regards to college, I can speak personally firsthand that my kids are not ready for the rigors of college. From what I understand, I'm not alone in these thoughts, and I'm almost done. It is my opinion that these testing and grading policies need to go back to the old way of doing things. It's in your power as a board to be able to change things. You can change this.
Thank you.
You need to do it, please. Thank you.
Marilyn, who do we have next?
Sheila Jurishit.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Jurisic, and I have two children who have graduated from LT, and I have a daughter who is a rising junior. I come before the Board of Education to express my ongoing concerns with the current grading policy. Last week, I attempted to articulate the complexities of why the grading policy was not working. Today, I'm going to be as clear-cut as possible. Your community that elected you to represent them and our children want you to hold our kids accountable. Number one, we request that you hold our children accountable to show up for class and participate. This is a life lesson and something our children will need to do in order to be successful in their post-secondary endeavors. Not showing up is not an option in the real world. We request that you hold our children accountable for completing homework by grading their work and entering it into the grade book. Homework will reinforce concepts taught and inform teachers of what they need to reinforce. It is vital in the instructional practices. Number three, we request that following appropriate instructions, students are held responsible for completing a test in order to evaluate what they have learned. In the real world, there are no retakes. We request that you administer finals at the conclusion of the semester. This is another life lesson and the reality of what our children will need to master as they continue their post-secondary endeavors. We request that you stand behind your words clearly articulated last week during the board meeting, and not allow this policy to continue. You were very clear and expressed your concerns with the approach. I even heard one member say he could not stand behind this policy. This is your responsibility as our Board of Education to stand behind what is in the best interest of our students here at LT. To continue down this road is completely irresponsible. Every parent that has come up here has said the same exact thing. We have reached out to the Board of Education. We have been respectful with our comments. They have fallen on deaf ears. This needs to change. Thank you.
Marilyn, who do we have next?
Beth Walsh.
Good evening. My name is Beth Walsh. I honestly have no prepared comments because I was not going to say anything, but I want to give you some dinner table conversation at my house. I have a sophomore and 2 seniors, and I also have a 2021 college graduate who actually graduated from Fenwick High School. She happened to be home during exam time, and we were sitting around eating dinner, and the kids were talking about how they didn't have to go take final exams because they were optional. And maybe they had to go take a final exam, but they really weren't sure. They had to see what their grades were because it was a no-harm final. My oldest daughter could not believe her ears. She was like, "What are you talking about? No harm final." She said, she just graduated from the University of Illinois. Do you think, and she's an engineer for GE Healthcare. Do you think that she had no harm finals at the University of Illinois? No, never. Absolutely not. Her work counted, her finals counted, every single test counted. She didn't get to retake her tests, and she was absolutely flabbergasted at what she was hearing coming out of her siblings' mouths. It's ridiculous. My second conversation was with my son the week of exams, and talking about how his friends who went to Ignatius were suckers because they had to study for exams, and they couldn't go out with them. They couldn't go out with him and his other friends from LT. So we are setting our kids up for failure once they leave this building. And when I signed my other 3 kids up to come to LT, the other thing is my seniors, they have never had exams except for first semester of freshman year. And granted, their entire high school experience to date has been extraordinary. And if they walk out of these doors next year in 2023, having taken 1 set of final exams, that is just, it's unacceptable in an educational setting. And that you people can change it. There's no reason not to be able to change it. And I'm not sure why final exams have become rocket science.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
That's it for agenda-related. The remaining participants are non-agenda related.
Okay, thank you. Great. That concludes our agenda-related public comments. Next up, we have LTEA President Andrew Johannes.
Good evening. This has been a very difficult year with many trials and tribulations. If you ask any educator, they will tell you this year was the hardest year of their professional careers. This summer break was truly needed to recharge and reset for next year. Just a few final notes to conclude the year. I want to thank Dr. Waterman for working with the non-contractual workers and giving them a pay raise. It is well deserved, and the teachers appreciate that everyone is recognized for their contributions to the school. A special shout out to Susan Hughes for her efforts in the process. The LTEA supports the strategic plan. The teachers appreciate the opportunity to be part of the process and feel this is a positive direction because it provides clarity for LT for the next few years. We would like to say a big thank you to the nursing staff for their tireless work during the last two school years. The amount of work the nursing staff had during the last few years was unbelievable, and they did an incredible job keeping the students and staff healthy and safe. I would like to recognize the work of the Grading Implementation Committee completed at the end of the year. 2 major concerns as discussed at the last meeting and tonight were homework not counting and no deadlines. The changes of formatives counting for 10% of the grade and reestablishing deadlines addresses these concerns. Next school year, more teachers will be added to the Grading Implementation Committee, which I think will be an added benefit as we continue to review the grading process. I wanted to thank Ed Tennant and Kelly Dostal for meeting with me at the end of the school year. We discussed some tech changes that could simplify recording tardies and attendance for both teachers and the assistant principals. It seems there is a possibility to streamline the process and lessen the burden on teachers. I truly appreciate Ed's and Kelly's willingness to listen to teacher concerns and collaborate to find a workable solution. Finally, I would like to congratulate all of the retirees. They've had a lasting impact on Lyons Township High School, and for that, we are indebted to them. I know each of us remaining are slightly jealous, but we promise to honor their legacy while maintaining the high standards and expectations they set here at LT. On behalf of a grateful faculty, thank you. So that's all I've got. So I hope everyone has a good rest of the summer. We look forward to seeing everyone in August and starting fresh with the 2022-23 school year. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. We hope you all get a really much-needed rest, too. Come back recharged. Thank you. Next up, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Waterman.
Thank you, President Dillon. I also want to express my appreciation to so many, our students, our staff, our parents and guardians, our community members, and our board members for navigating through both the challenges and the celebrations of the 21-22 school year. We began this year in August, still very much dealing with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we ended the year in a much more traditional sense with the commencement ceremony on May 25th that honored 1,014 students from the class of 2022. And as always, our most recent graduates have so much to be proud of in terms of what they accomplished, but also they have a lot of hope as they move on to colleges, apprenticeships, military, and employment. Later this evening, Dr. Tyrell is going to present the annual principal's end-of-the-year summary, and we're going to hear firsthand about the academic and co-curricular and athletic accomplishments of our students and staff during this school year. It's always a highlight because we do have so much to be proud of, and we know that our students always excel on a local, state, and national level. And of course, once the school year is over, we transition very quickly to summer school, and we continue preparations for the upcoming school year. I love summer school because I think it's a perfect example of how our school is connected to the 11 communities within LT. It's very difficult to find someone who's not attended a camp or a summer school class at LT. And this year is no different. We have almost 7,000 summer school enrollments in 64 different high school courses, athletic camps, and extracurricular activities. So it's the reason why these campuses are buzzing each and every day. We have 9 weeks of summer left and so much to accomplish, and we're certainly going to be communicating updates throughout the summer as we prepare for the 22-23 school year. The district has received a variety of FOIA requests since the last May board meeting. We had a local parent rights group request information related to public participation at board meetings. We had an individual request information related to benefits for administrators. A local reporter requested information related to the district's transportation provider. A local reporter requested information related to a teacher's resignation. An individual requested information related to an athletic contest. And a local reporter also requested information related to an athletic contest. And then a local reporter requested information related to a teacher's resignation. So that concludes my report for this evening, and I hope everyone has a great week. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Just to go all of a sudden. Okay. Great. Moving on. Under action items, new business. Our first agenda item is the DuPage Area Occupational Education System, DAOES, Intergovernmental Agreement. First reading, Dr. Waterman.
Thank you, President Dillon. So the DAOS, the DuPage Area Occupational Education System, is the governing structure for Technology Center of DuPage, which about 40 of our students attend each year. And in July of 2021, the Illinois State Board of Education and JCAR, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, approved new administrative rules for career and technical education effective last July. And essentially, it states that to be considered for continued approval as a regional consortium, that the agreement that we have with DEOS be updated by next July of 2023. So within the last year, the DEOS board, which consists of superintendents of member schools throughout the consortium, have worked to update the intergovernmental agreement in accordance with ISB and JCAR rules. And so we're presenting this last week and tonight as a first reading to the board. And what will happen is we'll bring this back in August for a second reading, and pending approval, then each of the member districts would also approve it, and it would become approved at the DEOS board meeting. So that, I'll happy to take any questions that the board has.
It's pretty clear. We talked about it last week. Thank you. Moving on then, our next agenda item is the approval of the depository signers document. Brian Stachek.
Thank you, President Dillon. We had discussed this last week at the committee of the whole meeting under the finance section, and this is a change from what we've done in past years, because in past years it was when we were a member of the Township Treasurers Organization, they actually held our bank accounts for us. That is no longer the case since we have left their jurisdiction, and so annually we will be asking the board to approve our depositories, bank accounts. And so essentially what you have there on page 28 is a list of the bank accounts that we have. First of all, the Illinois School District Liquid Asset Fund accounts, and then the corresponding accounts through BMO Harris Bank, which are the actual accounts themselves at which we write our checks, deposit money, that sort of thing. And then we also have down there the student activity scholarship accounts, which are located at a local bank, FNBC Bank and Trust, here in LaGrange. And so simply all we ask the board to do is to approve those accounts for use for the upcoming fiscal year FY23, which is the 22-23 school year.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, great. Then is there a motion to approve the depository signers?
So moved.
Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member O'Bear? Yes. Member Yes. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinmark?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes. And then our next agenda item is board policy updates and review. It's Press 109. It's a first reading. Mr. Piotrowski.
Excuse me. Thank you, President Dillon. On page 29 of the board materials, we do have the board policies review, press issue 109 update. As we have in previous press updates, we have broken it down into 3 sections. Section 1 contained 4 policies that are being recommended for a 5-year review for quality assurance purposes. The Illinois Association of School Board recommends that every 5 years we review all policies that have not undergone any changes. We do have 4 policies that are listed on page 29, and at this time we are recommending that the board approve the 5-year review for those policies. Section 2 includes 5 policies that have revisions that include changes of an administrative nature. None of these changes have any impact on how policies are interpreted. They include changes, things like legal references, footnotes, terminology, responses to recent litigation, or school code updates. Those 5 policies are listed in Section 2 on page 29 of the memorandum. And then finally, Section 3. Section 3 contains 2 policies. Both of these policies contain language changes that have been either recommended by the Illinois Association of School Boards or recommended by our district council, but both of these policies have been reviewed by our district council as well. Policy 2230, which is public participation at board meetings. As you may recall, this is a policy that was recently updated in the Lyons Township Board of Education Policy Manual, and at this time, Frantic is not recommending any additional changes because the changes that were made recently include all of the changes that are being recommended by the Illinois Association of School Boards. And then finally, Policy 7285, Anaphylaxis Prevention, Response, and Management Program. Frantic is recommending that any recommended changes that Frantic is making are really to just maintain consistency with Illinois school code and policy language in order for consistency among the policies. This is very similar to previous policies. I believe it was 660 last time, dealing with curriculum, where the Illinois Association of School Board recommended for specific curriculum that we listed, and Franzik said we didn't need to list all of the different ways that the different requirements were being met. This is very similar. So Franzik is recommending that while we can make those changes if we wanted to, those would go above and beyond what the Illinois school code states we need to have. And for consistency's sake, they are recommending that we wouldn't include that language. None of that changes how we would interpret these policies and would be fully compliant with the law. This is a first read. If there are any changes between the first read and the second read, we will make sure that the board is aware, and we would have plenty of time to discuss either tonight or at the upcoming committee of the whole or August board meeting. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Ed, can you just net out the 2230 or the public participation at the board? What are the main, can you just net out what the big changes are, or what?
Absolutely. The proposed change really was just to clarify that when the board is receiving public participation and comments, that the board would receive but not respond to that public participation, which is something that is included in our statement at the beginning of each public participation policy. And then it also addresses what the expectations are for public participation, and all of those are spelled out in the dialogue that we have at the beginning of both of those public participation policies, or public participation opportunities at the board meetings.
So nothing was spelled out before, or?
The changes that are being recommended now are changes that we already incorporated in when we adopted this policy 2230 as part of the last policy update. This just codifies what we already put into place.
Allison, we did a review of this and an update last fall, and so now Press 109 is catching up to that, basically. So we already worked through this with our attorneys last fall.
Got it.
Anybody else? Okay, so we'll see this again.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Our final agenda item under new business is the approval of the LTHS District 204 Consolidated Plan. Scott Eggerding.
Thank you, President Dillon. We have tonight a rather lengthy document, and as we talked about last week, in order to qualify and apply for Title I, Title II, Title IV, IDEA, and to continue with the ESSER III American Recovery Plan grants, the state requires that we complete a consolidated district plan. And as you'll see, it looks very similar to a strategic plan. And the last time it was approved was in 2020. We did a number of things at that time because we didn't have a strategic plan in place to gather the information. Obviously, this time, the two coincided. So you'll notice that throughout the plan are references not only to our strategic planning process, but also to the people involved in creating that plan. So by looking specifically at our strategic plan, we were able to gather the information from quite a few stakeholders, and that is all part of what we've included in the document tonight. Just a reminder for the board that Title I is for academic achievement of disadvantaged students. Title II is for preparing, training, and recruiting high-quality teachers, principals, and other school leaders. Title IV is for student support and academic enrichment. IDEA is individuals with disabilities in education. And the ESSER III, American Recovery Plan, was a federal plan, or is a federal plan, to get schools open after COVID. But given the timing of it and the length, which is multiple years, we've continued to review our allocations for that. So essentially, as you look at this, there are a number of things in the state plan that are not a part of the shorter version that I included. And that is because many of those items are things that have not changed, such as our foster care transportation plan. But everything that has changed is included in the legible portion of the packet. Again, I apologize for the almost illegible nature of the state plan, but when you print it, you can only print it through their system. That being said, you'll notice that really the details in this plan are all of the activities and supports that we provide to our students. We use these grants to help improve instruction. We use these grants for tutoring. We use them for homeless students, for for bringing in presenters, such as we had Goldie Muhammad here today, that we used grant money to bring her here for that, to help train our staff. So really, it's a wide-ranging plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but as we reviewed quite a bit of it last week, I certainly want to respect your time.
Thank you. Scott, remind me again how often this has to be submitted?
It's a little nebulous, but essentially when you make significant changes, you should change it. So there were a number of references to programs from 2020 that no longer exist. And again, the timing was just good to make those updates. Again, new vision, new mission, all those sorts of things, but then also some programming that's changed, in particular given the pandemic. So this is as up to date as we can make it.
Great. This was good information. It was very helpful. Anybody else have any comments? Looks good.
I do ask for approval tonight.
Sure.
Just so that we can submit the grant and actually get going with our submission of the actual grants themselves.
Absolutely. Is there a motion then to approve the, excuse me, LTHS District 204 Consolidated Plan as presented?
So moved.
Marilyn, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yes. So next up, we have a couple information items. The first one is the end-of-year summary. Dr. Tyrell.
Great. Thanks so much, President Dillon. Really excited to share this with all of you tonight. This is going to be a really fun part of our meeting. As we reflect back on the 2021-2022 school year, I'm proud to be able to share with you some of the successes that our students experienced within the classroom, within extracurricular activities, and within interscholastic athletics throughout the course of the year. Within the year-end summary that has been shared with you, I've outlined many academic, activity, and athletic highlights from this past year, but tonight I want to take a moment to share more than a few that align to each area of programming. First, within the area of academics, I want to highlight some of the accomplishments of the class of 2022. Based on the scholarships and awards turned into us by May 5th, the class of 2022 reported that its students will utilize $17,780,000 toward its future educational goals. That's just simply incredible. In addition, LTHS students were awarded the following: 24 National Merit Commended students, 5 were named semifinalists and finalists, 108 qualified as high honors status, 225 achieved the status of Illinois State Scholar, and 96% of the students in the class of 2022 will continue post-high school education at 2- and 4-year colleges, technical schools, apprenticeships, or the military. And I'll say that one of the highlights to the year, and there were many, was us being able to facilitate traditional celebratory and recognition events for the class of 2022, and it was just so great to see the smiles on our students and their families' faces as we were able to celebrate them as they concluded their LT experience. Second, within the area of student activities, I want to start by sharing some data with you that helps tell the LT story. Preliminary reports show that 77.7% of LT students participated in at least one extracurricular activity, which is a sport, club, or intramural, with 55.3% participating in 2 or more. And then if we add in special events, that number goes up to 83.3%, which is just tremendous. Many of our competitive activities excelled on the state and national level this year, and a few highlights include our Winter Guard taking first place in both the IDTA Regional Tall Flags competition and the IDTA Tall Flags State competition. The robotics team had 2 teams qualify for the VEX State Championship, with one advancing to the World Championship in Dallas, and a 3rd team won the VRC High School Poster Design Online Challenge, qualifying them for Worlds as well, and one of our teams finished in the top 16, which is awesome. At regionals, BPA in January, 25 students qualified for state in 23 events. Of those 25, 7 students qualified for for nationals in 12 events. And we also had 22 students finish in the top 10 of their events at nationals. Awards and recognition, I just want to draw attention to the fact that our publications, our Lion newspaper, our Menagerie, our Tabulae, our LTTV, our WLTL, we'd put them up against any other school in the country. And between Lion, Menagerie, Tab, LTTV, WLTL, they brought home many, not just state, but national level awards, which is just awesome. I want to highlight LTTV. They have a tremendous lift, and they broadcast so many of our internal events, and the quality is professional level, as many of you have seen. But they produced a large amount of school promotion videos, including height videos for boys and girls sports, event recaps of the all-school assembly, LionCon, and our spring open house. They covered a large number of events at school, including live events in sports and music, the all-school Black History Month program, Brown Stock, just to name a few. And our students worked together to produce a number of videos for the MMEA Video Festival, and they brought home several awards there. So that goes for all of our publications. They are absolutely tremendous. Our WLTL group had an awesome rockathon, and they raised over $14,000 in that rockathon, which is just so cool. Something that I'm really proud of, and I know our students and advisors, teachers, coaches are really proud of, is our service efforts here at LT. And it's hard to find a team, a club, an organization that has not participated in some sort of service endeavor in the 21-22 school year. I'll highlight a few. Our aviation club led the return of the polar plunge in Oakbrook Bath at the Oakbrook Bath and Tennis Club. Somehow I managed to avoid that one. I can't believe it. But LT's 38 members raised $19,420, securing the Cool School Champions Award for being the K-12 school to raise the most money. And that's the 9th time that LT has won that award since the first polar plunge in 2013. And LT has raised a total of over $145,000 since 2013 to benefit Special Olympics, which is fantastic. Future healthcare professionals collected over 200 pairs of shoes. They partnered with our Interact Club for the Share Your Souls organization and donated $4,000 to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And they led an awesome pink out at a football game in the fall, and we brought pink powder to Bennett Field, which the kids absolutely loved, and I can't wait to make a tradition here at LT. Our Interact Club took part in numerous service projects, including making cat toys for donation at the Hinsdale Humane Society. They cut, tied, and delivered fleece blankets to Constance Morris House in LaGrange. They assisted the Rotary in a Thanksgiving pie run, so a lot of service opportunities for Interact Club. Something that we're really proud of, our Latinos Juntos organization took the lead in developing the LT Care Space, which I think is a big highlight from this year, a community design space to support the needs of LT students. Many monetary and product donations were made to the care space during the year, and this directly benefited the students of LT. NHS planned a week of service with numerous activities for members and non-members of NHS. Peer Leadership and NHS coordinated a school-wide food drive collecting 2,354 items for Westchester, St. Cletus, and St. Francis Xavier food pantries, and I did take a pie in the face for the rooms that collected the most food, so that was fun. Student Council, in addition to planning the returns of just some of our favorite events, homecoming dance, all school assembly, also took part in a number of philanthropic endeavors. They donated $7,899 to the Jack Kunkel Memorial Scholarship through the Spring 2021 and Homecoming 2021 Mr. LT pageants, and theater board partnered with them as well to do an improv show during homecoming week. They hosted a community blood drive. They coordinated a successful Secret Santa program with the Rotary, and in partnership with Double Good Popcorn, delivered 176 boxes of popcorn to LT staff, essential workers, and first responders. A few unique events I'd love to highlight. Our Model Model United Nations Club, under the direction of Mr. Johannes, hosted the annual Lyman Conference, student-led conference where we invited 500 students from high schools across the Chicagoland area here to LT to participate in 16 different committees. Just an awesome student leadership opportunity. Our Latin Club hosted over 200 students at the IJCL Latin Convention in February. That was held at South Campus. Our sponsor, Sean Sweeney, was also named Illinois Latin Teacher of the Year at that convention. And GEMS, after a 3-year hiatus, the club hosted a return to the Introduce a Girl to STEM Day at South Campus. Those were all really cool and unique events that we hosted here at LT. And I just want to add that it was an absolute pleasure to have a front row seat at all of our choral and orchestra and band and theater performances throughout the course of the school year. I would put our fine arts schedule, calendar, production, and performance list up against any school anywhere. It was absolutely awesome, and credit to our students and staff as well. Finally, the 21-22 school year was very successful from an athletic standpoint. It's really special being at a school where state trophies are the goal, and LT athletic teams brought home 4 state trophies this year. The first one came at the end of the winter season when our boys swimming and diving team finished 3rd, and then the spring LT athletic teams brought home 3 state trophies. All 3 were 3rd place trophies: boys gymnastics, boys water polo, and girls water polo. And there were a lot of fun days this year from an athletic standpoint, but one of the most fun was being at Stevenson with our boys and girls water polo teams, and then both winning those 3rd place trophies on the same day. It was one of those really special days that you'll always remember. Our athletics programs, like I said, also participated in a lot of philanthropic endeavors: Pink Out games, our Orange Crush badminton game. Our teams and coaches run youth clinics and camps. They have staff appreciation games. The list goes on, and many of our coaches and advisors as well have been recognized by their associations as well as Coach of the Year. I had a lot of fun supporting LT athletics this year, LT activities, and I'm so proud of our students' work in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I'd like to conclude by sharing a thank you with our Board of Education. Your support of our academic, co-curricular, and athletic programs makes it possible for our students to find their passions, develop their relationships and connections, and experience much success that prepares them for their next step after LT. And I would also like to congratulate our teachers, coaches, advisors, and all LT staff on a successful year that our students had in the classroom, as well as within activities and athletics. Thank you for your leadership that you provide and the experiences that you cultivate. They lead to much joy and give our students the chance to make memories that will last a lifetime. Really proud of all of our many accomplishments. And honestly, these were just a few. There's many more, and I know I left out some things that I'd love to share about tonight, but our programs are so robust. There are so many celebrations. So thanks for giving me an opportunity tonight.
I was just happy to hear that Dr. Tyrell actually avoided one event, because I didn't think you avoided anything all year. So
I did. I'm going to schedule myself on the day of the polar plunge for every year moving forward.
Busy that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Thank you.
Great job.
We were thinking maybe there was a clone of you, because you would be in one spot and then I would see you in something else. I'm like, wasn't she just at that other event?
Someone wrote a really funny satire article for the Lion newspaper about that. I'll have to give you a copy. It was really good. There's a lot of great parts of my job, but the best part is supporting our students and our staff as they engage in things that they're super passionate about, and it's a privilege and an honor, and I enjoy every second of it. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I think we would agree that that's probably one of our favorite parts too. So thank you for that. Thanks to everyone who participates and makes that all happen, and also to our students for being so excited and wanting to participate.
Yeah, it's such a proud. It's to talk about LT pride and tradition and the robust programs we have, and how important that this aspect is of the high school experience and preparing kids for whatever their next steps are. To your point about finding their passion. So I'm super proud of everything we do here at LT, all the co-curriculars, academic, and activities that we give the students opportunities to participate in, to bring forward and start all the some of the new and amazing things that were started this year. So thanks for sharing that good news, and I kind of chuckled to myself when I heard you say that you had a front stage pass at the Fine Arts. I think you were pretty much front row in everything this year. So, yeah, thank you. And that's very apparent to the students and means the world to the students and feeling connected here. It's also very apparent to our community. So thank you for being in the front row of everything here.
Hearing that list and hearing all the excitement, the academics, the activities, the service, and just the amount and the length. It was so exciting with this year especially because we really needed those kids getting back connected and engaged. And thank you for all the LT staff and teachers and coaches and administration and the students themselves for jumping back in and making it so robust. So.
Thanks again. All right. Finally, our last item under information is the grading practices update. Dr. Waterman.
Okay, thank you, President Dillon. So last week, the Board of Education heard a report from Dr. Tyrell about the findings of a gradebook audit that was completed in the spring, and our team will certainly be able to use the results of the audit to inform our future efforts in teacher support and professional development. The board also heard a report from Scott Eggerding and a few members of the grading practices implementation team, Matt Ramft and Andrew Johannes, about the work that team has done this spring and the proposed changes for next year. Those include, as we talked about earlier, the 10% calculation of formative work to the final grade, clarifying deadlines as it relates to the submission of work, and then access to retakes and revisions, and then an update to the end of the semester and the final exams as well. During last week's discussion and throughout the week, it's very clear that we still have some significant concerns with the end of the semester, the final exam procedures, and then with also ensuring that we have a reasonable procedures in place for retakes. So I want to be clear that we've heard the concerns, we hear the concerns, and we will be working immediately to update both of those primary components, the final exam, end of the semester approach, and also the retake piece, so that we can make some changes, put those in place, and communicate those prior to the beginning of the school year. My goal is over the next couple weeks to work with our team to look at this, and I'd like to communicate an update to the board no later than early July. So that's the brief version. Chose not to rehash the report or the presentation from last week, but certainly can go back to that if we want to, or take questions or comments.
I appreciate your sentiments, Brian, because I think, you know, it's there's been a lot of good information, a lot of new information. A lot's gone well. I mean, nobody's saying much about the consistency that we've achieved in terms of, I think, extra credit, for example, right? That was one of the original goals. So I think there are elements of the grading policy that are kind of done deals and not getting much attention. But I do appreciate that each semester the team's making, it sounds like a heavy lift, a big effort to try to gather input, anecdotal, grade book audits, teacher input, parent input, and then I see changes being made. And so I just don't want to lose sight of, we had semester one this year, some feedback a lot of feedback was received, changes were made. We had another semester, new feedback, more changes. Doesn't mean you're going to, make everybody happy ever, right? But I appreciate the openness and the words you just shared, which is indicative of continued listening, continued refinement. The topics are different. I don't think we were talking about finals first semester, but now we are. Finals did feel different in my house as well this semester. So it sounds like we're revisiting. So just wanted to mention that I'm appreciative of the listening, the active listening, and I know the format of some of our meetings might not always connote some of that, but your words just now were very helpful. Thank you.
I would echo the same sentiments, that appreciate that, all the work that went into this process that was started over 5 years ago. So I don't want that to go unnoticed, and appreciate that you've been making those tweaks. I think the last ones, as we heard from Andrew and the team, the implementation team was very much in approval of those shifts and those adjustments, and I appreciate that you'll keep us informed and that we'll see a new update again before the start of the school year.
All right, so I just want to reiterate, I mean, I do appreciate the work that has been done, and where we have been making tweaks, but I think that we've seen through the past year that the whole policy is just not working with the implementation that we've done. And I do think that, again, homework, which I didn't mention last week, but while we are looking at it as 10%, it should be counted and it should be graded and it should be a part. It should not be optional. It should be included as part of the total grade. We also need to, again, look at what you said, but the urgency of ensuring that we do get back with more major changes and accommodations taken, because, again, final exams are not optional when they go to college, and when we are trying to work to instill that rigor, that it should be a part of that. And we need to continue to uphold what we've always held before. And, while there has been research out there, I don't think that it's not working when it comes to being implemented. And the times that we are in now, especially coming out of pandemic, and how students have been responding just coming out of the pandemic, we need to instill that we have that rigor as we have approved in the strategic plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have some comments to make. I likewise appreciate that you've continued to look at this and have continued to make changes, but I still have ongoing concerns that the time that it's taking to review and make the changes is causing us to miss kids along the way, to miss opportunities along the way. And so in thinking about the upcoming changes and the conversation that we had last week, I do realize, and I appreciate the acknowledgement that while sometimes shifts in education have the best intentions in mind, there are often unintended consequences and unintended impacts. And I appreciate that we've started to make some pivots, but I need more to understand if these pivots that we're making are the right pivots for the start of semester one, moving into semester one. So, for instance, I think about the environmental scan that was done for the strategic plan. That was, I don't know if it was like 5 or 6 questions, but there was a short survey that was given to students, parents, and teachers about grading. And to my knowledge, that's really the only formal type of survey that we've done at this point. I really appreciate that the LTEA has done either 2 or 3 of their own surveys, but why haven't we administered surveys? We've made changes. We've made changes, and we need to know if those changes, if there's any sort of confidence level, even though it will be anecdotally at first, to allay some of the concerns that we've heard from parents, from teachers, and from students. And I guess I'm going to speak about the teachers more specifically right now. They are boots on the grounds. They're with the students every time in the environment, not every time, every day. And all of us are invested in, obviously, student learning and best student outcomes. But I'm going to focus on the teachers because that is their day-to-day mission, passion, and job. it was alarming that in the environmental scan, over 70% of them reported that they did not believe the kids were doing the formative work. They were not doing the important work to lead towards solid learning. Couldn't we ascertain right now in a survey over the summer if the teachers felt that the changes that were made for semester 2, what kind of impact they had? I realize that's not hard data, but I think there's quality to be gained from understanding that. And why we're asking them that, the information on the grading changes went out the last day that the teachers were here in the afternoon. So there was no opportunity to get any feedback on whether or not there's some sort of confidence level that these changes are going to take care of the concerns and issues that we're seeing in student learning, or that are the concerns about that. So doing a survey sooner than the start of the school year seems to me to be a prudent thing to do, to try to gain some of this information so that we can pivot sooner than waiting a whole semester into 2022, 2023 to potentially make more changes. And I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. I think we all believe that we need to be preparing our students best for what comes after LT, and some of the things in the grading changes were exceptionally needed. I can speak personally of living in a household with two college kids, one who's a college graduate, that they directly experienced some of the things that you've said, where they had a class where they were working their tails off, but there were no retakes offered, there was no extra credit offered, there was a different percentage of homework offered, and one of their friends was in a different class, but the same course. And in that course, there was extra credit, there were retakes, there were so many good things about the changes that were made, and those well-intentions, I think we've realized that, and those needed to be done, but it shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all approach for everything. And on that point, too, it concerns me still that we're looking at developing a consistent plethora of courses. And in my mind, I can't rationalize that a course like dance fitness is being obligated to uphold the same grading scale as AP physics. It doesn't make sense to me. So in thinking about the path forward and thinking about today's meeting and what I would hope for, what I'm asking for and what I would hope for is more aggressive work over the summer to the degree that it's possible, with the teachers being on summer vacation, parents being on summer vacation, students being on summer vacation. But I think it would be very valuable to garner more feedback to understand if these changes that we're going into with semester 1 of 2022, 2023 have some confidence that they're going to be effective and that we're on the right path and that it's enough. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. I think you've outlined for us, Brian, what we would expect from you and the administration for the summer. I know that there's a lot, and it's ambitious for the next 6 weeks, but we've got confidence in you that you can do this.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, so I'm just hearing from Julie and Michael and Dawn some really good points and really good feedback that we can take to really dig into this. So any other, again, going back to last week, those are the concerns that we heard loud and clear around the end of the semester, the final exams, that summative experience, the homework piece, and the retake. So anything else that, any additional feedback is really appreciated. And honestly, we appreciate all of the feedback we've gotten on this topic going back 5 years and before that, because we've said that a lot, that this whole process started because of criticism and because of feedback. And so we're going to continue to evolve it and get to a place that we all feel comfortable with.
Thank you.
Brian, one, you had mentioned you guys are going to be meeting immediately on this and coming up with some other ideas. I do appreciate the tweaks. I do think they need to be stronger, and I believe that I just want to have these kids prepared for the next stage. And so the finals, the deadlines, the retakes, all of that are really important to me and to people I've talked to. If you get back, in early July with some ideas, I want as a board the ability to discuss or to talk about this So I don't know what we can do there, or how we can do it, but
The only thing I would probably say is just to keep it clear that the board's job is to govern and not manage. So they will determine what those specifics look like. And I think Brian is clear that he'll keep us updated. We'll have that information before we reconvene in August. And there will be an announcement to the community early, probably end of July.
But I guess the worry I have is the board has asked a lot of questions, and they've raised a lot of concerns, and I don't know what else we can do. And I would like time to discuss.
We probably wouldn't be able to change anything, though, that close to, school starting, I mean, so if they're going to work on, the team has to go back and work and look at the operational part of what goes into making these changes happen. So if the retake policy is an issue, that's something they have to discuss. They have something they have to know that they can execute and implement across the board. So they're going to come to us with how that's actually going to happen, and we'll get that information, and we would have that ahead of time, but I don't think we would have a discussion about how they would do those processes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understood, Allison. I think I understand. Let me take a stab at it. If there are going to be additional substantive changes made for the start of the school year, I'm hearing you say, and I would agree, that the board would be willing to come and try to convene at a meeting, if that makes sense, in order to hear about those changes, to hear about the impetus and the background of those changes, and to discuss them. That's what I heard you saying.
Yeah.
I think it's also what's realistic and doable for the team to come back and make this happen.
I agreed and completely agreed.
Right.
And the summer
Right.
is short. So if the timing works out that way, if not, from my perspective, I would be looking to hear that very early in August and understand what the changes will be that will be impacting the start of the semester.
So I'll let the board make those decisions. Well, here's what I will commit to. Our team will dig into this, and I will have an update to the board by early July. At that point, then the board can have a discussion on whether to talk about it at the August 8th meeting, because we have a very early August meeting, or do something different. That's a board discussion.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also think while I do think the board has a area to say within it, because it's really within this overall policy of grading, and it's not necessarily micromanaging, but if we see something is not working, then I think then we need to look at what the major revisions are and be able to provide that feedback so that we can be able to enact any kind of changes before the start of school.
I suppose, I guess, I just, playing adversary, Michael, I'm not sure, what we would know is working or not. Is that just going to be anecdotal or from, no? I just think in that time period, so. Excuse me, please don't yell out. I think then that would probably be a good idea to get an update from the team, as you mentioned, Brian, in July. And then the board will have a discussion about having, if we need to reconvene for another meeting. So we'll leave it at that. And we'll see what's doable, because I know that schedules will be challenging, so, for that time. Okay.
Can I ask just a couple sort of nuanced questions or points of clarification? One, is there anything, we're talking a lot about college readiness, and we do offer AP courses, and we're partnering with several different universities for some dual credit courses, including Indiana University for several of our foreign language, or at least French and Spanish, I believe. Is there anything to be learned or gleaned from the instructional materials that accompany those, since they are college-level courses, meaning the Indiana University foreign languages, do those, the syllabi, do they require a final? Is there option, I don't know the answer, even though I have.
Yes, and it does not allow retakes. So, I mean, it acts like a college, and so that's what we're not doing in a lot of this new way.
But there's finals in the,
Yes.
I mean, there weren't.
Aren't they?
I don't think, I'll ask Scott.
Sorry.
If you know, I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yes, they do.
And there are finals in those courses?
Yes.
Okay. And I know last week, and not to rehash last week, but Scott, you were reminding that, and I just want to be clear kind of what people are even contemplating. The old final, let's say 3 years ago finals, were typically, you said, cumulative in nature for classes like math and science classes, but PE almost never had a final, or maybe never had a final. Art classes would have a final project. I think Intro to Business, I've been a Shark Tank judge. That's a Shark Tank final project. So I just don't, I want to be clear, nobody's talking about now requiring PE to have a cumulative final or English to have a cumulative final on like all the books that were read. I mean, that would be like swinging back. I just want to be, nobody's talking about that
I think,
kind
you know,
of thing.
so
Okay.
over the last couple of years, public high schools did not administer traditional final exams. So as everyone's going back, coming out of the pandemic and coming back to that traditional sense, what we're seeing is a wide variety of procedures. We're seeing some that where you'll take the final summative exam during that final exam period. You'll have some that administer the traditional cumulative final. Can count up to 10% or can count up to 20%. So schools are sort of re-implementing that into the semester final exam experience, which is what we need to discuss and just decide where we're going. But that is priority number one, is getting to a place where the end of the semester looks different and has that summative experience. Whether that's a cumulative final or a final summative, that's what we'll get at through the discussions.
And then one other, I try to think about topics from different angles, and I know we've heard a lot about retakes as being there's too many retakes, it's too easy, it's too, in some ways and from some feedback. I wondered if we have any information or data as to whether access to retakes are equitable, meaning if are generally our teachers able to work with the students before school and after school, let's say restrictions or lack of transportation access to be able to retake during this, during the school day or a lunch period or some alternative mean. Is there any other angle kind of in a different direction that maybe there aren't a lot of voices on, that, meaning are retakes, are all kids able to access retakes from what we understand, or is there a subpopulation or subgroup that has a hard time making that happen?
I mean, I think it would be difficult for anyone to say that access to retakes is equitable in a school with this many kids, right? And so I think it's assumed that there's going to be inequitable access to retakes. But in terms of data, I don't know, Scott, I don't know if I answered that correctly. I'm just anecdotal.
No, we haven't collected that. I mean, we certainly have test makeup centers where students can go and do retakes, because we also have teachers who commute. So it's not possible for a student to be available and a teacher to meet perhaps in the morning because the teacher's at the other campus. So that being said, we haven't collected data specifically on retakes, partly because it is such a fluid process. And so that's part of the changes that we wanted to make to start next year, is to make it more consistent there as well. Because we were getting students who were 3, 4, 5 weeks beyond a test or something doing a retake based on a previous late turn-in or missed work and that sort of thing. So we've put some things in place to make sure that you're not getting that far away from the original assessment.
Okay.
I actually did have one more thing I wanted to ask for consideration. So, and, along with most at this table, share the concerns and the questions, but do believe that, everybody's aligned on the ultimate goal. It's just that path. But what I also would appreciate in early July, in addition to, rethinking the changes and the scope of the changes, is an understanding of implementation, because I think we've talked about that at different points here, that coming back after COVID, just acknowledgement that was tough and didn't roll out according to plan, and knowing that we made changes going into second semester, and it was late in the game, and that impacted the ability to take root. Understanding how this next wave will roll out, I think would be helpful too, especially to your point, Don, in understanding, you know, if the confidence level and allaying any concerns and things like that, if that could be part of that follow-up.
I think it would be really important, obviously, to communicate that. You know, we've talked about how at the beginning of the year, there's just so much information that comes through to everybody. So whatever these these additions and changes look like, we're very clear. We make sure that they're sent out to the community, possibly in a variety of different ways, or at least in plenty of time before all the other information that follows.
Yeah, and I would just add one additional thing that we're not directly talking about, but we've spent several board meetings talking about it, that it would be great to come back to the board with some of the information on the A through F impacts. Brian, I think you last mentioned that you thought you would have some information by June, and as long as we're talking about all this in July, it'd be great to get back to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've made it very clear that we're not moving forward with A to F in any way, shape, or form. We've got a few teams experimenting with it, so I think in light of the concerns around even the non-A to F changes, my recommendation would be we don't talk about A to F.
So for the courses, the 30 courses plus the courses that are ensuing the A through F over the summer, will those students in those courses still receive pluses and minuses on their as part of their grade and as part of their transcript?
So the pluses and minuses would not be on the transcript. Yeah, I mean, that's something where those teams, and that's what happens, right? Like over time, teacher teams, they, I don't want to use the word experiment, but they do different things, right? Teachers implement different pedagogy, they implement different things in the classroom. So that's something where we're certainly going to look at that a little more critically now. But we don't want to move forward with A to F because of the concerns around all the other grading practices.
Okay.
So I guess my worry is we come back and do a update on A to F, and it seems like we're now moving down the road with A to F. That's my fear.
No, I've shared the same concern, but I hadn't heard the statement as clearly as I'm hearing it today, that we're not moving forward with A to F. So if that is the case, and if that's tabled for now, and provided that nothing that the teachers are experimenting with could have a negative impact on the kids, then I think that's great to table it, but there's a lot of other things to iron out.
Yeah, and that's tied to the curriculum review process, which we've started. So until we get way further down the road with curriculum review, we need to halt.
Okay, great.
The discussion on A to F.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman and team, for listening to the feedback from the community, from the board. Appreciate you being responsive and nimble and pivoting for us. We're now on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Schweinfurt?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And now we are moving on to the non-agenda related public comments. Marilyn, do we have any
We do.
agenda-related comments?
First is Katie Smith.
Thank you.
Good evening. I don't have an SAT report tonight, so this shouldn't be too long. All right. I wanted to take a few minutes to thank the LT community for my experience in the role of coordinator of assessment and research. When I was offered this position 13 years ago, I didn't understand the gem that I had stumbled upon. Not originally from Illinois, my only experience with LT was through my initial interview, and the rest of my experience has been built through my employment over the last 13 years, and most recently, it has been as a community member and parent of a rising sophomore. As an employee since 2009, I have learned what a privilege it is to be an administrator at LT. Our students come to us well prepared with ambitious goals. Each of them brings strengths to the table and are part of creating the educational experience at LT. Our parents are engaged, actively involved, and appropriately inquisitive. Sometimes I wonder how much value add we have because we work in such a wonderful community. That being said, there is a value add. It is our staff. Our staff will always have a special place in my heart. 11 years ago, I had the opportunity to grow a professional learning team with other educators in the building. And at the time, someone here told me that it was unlikely that the staff would capitalize on learning opportunities during the day and after or before school. Yet that very year in 2011-12, 100 teachers joined a variety of learning teams that met multiple times and some as much as 40 hours before and after school and participated in full-day trainings. The staff proved that individual wrong in 2011-12, and every year since then, our staff has demonstrated time and time again that they will do anything to improve their craft. Admittedly, I have personally asked a lot of some of our teachers, Andrew can testify to that, which has ranged from participating on different learning teams, giving feedback to assessments, giving presentations, running L teams, making instructional videos, trying new practices in the classroom, facilitating discussions at Institute Day, participating in instructional coaching, and many testing duties. Regardless of what I've asked of our teachers, I was typically met with, of course. They wear their hats in their sleeves, and their desire to do right by students drives them. Thank you to our teachers for all you do and give. Not just the teachers have a special place in my heart, the administrative team does as well. It's rare that you find a superintendent who is a true educational leader willing to stand by their vision of best educational practice, and I believe we have found that in Dr. Waterman, and I will be forever grateful for his leadership, modeling of good stewardship, and his encouragement to continually grow professionally. There's a lot of educational wisdom, talent, and strength that sits on the central office team, and I have no doubt that this team, under the leadership of Brian and Jen Tyrell, will bring the school to new heights in the years to come. I'm grateful to all of you for our work together. And the last, yet incredibly valuable thing that makes it a privilege to be an administrator at LTE is you, the Board of Education. Thank you for providing us the resources essential to meet the needs of our students. Special thanks to President Dillon for leading us through an incredibly challenging year with purpose, fortitude, and grace. Thank you to Board Member Kelly, Aber, Gretsch, Thomas, Beta, Daniels, and Swinehart for giving us many hours of your time, for holding us accountable to our community, and for your unparalleled support. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work here. I will miss you all dearly next year as I make a career change, but I will remain an LT superfan forever and an involved parent for the next 9 years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Katie.
Yeah, good luck.
Becky Lawrenson.
So, hello, and I just wanted to thank you for the year that you've spent really promoting the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion for everybody. Particularly for Dr. Waterman, Dr. Rowe, Dr. Tyrell, and all the administration for the different events in the community that you've attended and the support that you've given also to the community so we can work together to promote diversity. Any change is hard. We get used to things how they are, and if things work fine for us, we wonder why change is needed. I invite everyone who might not want change or who might not see a reason for a program promoting equity and inclusion for all to befriend someone who's voicing concern and really listen to their experience. I listened to the board meeting last month, and we had an African-American parent, and I know there's many others as well, who shared that her experience varied greatly from all of that of her Caucasian peers. How might we feel if we were made fun of because of the color of our skin or the slant of our eyes? How might our children feel? Would we want them to be hurt by others' comments? This is a difficult journey, mostly because we've been separated from each other for most of our past due to various factors. When we're not in relationship, it's difficult to listen and understand each other. Yet we're all part of the human race, and like the diverse flowers in a garden, each of us has something important to offer our community. What would it be like if the various parts of our body didn't want to work together? I don't think it could function very well, and our heart couldn't work if it didn't listen to the brain, and vice versa. So I just want to say a final thank you to the board for listening to the experiences of the current students, and for celebrating all of the community events, such as the wonderful Juneteenth Day that we had yesterday with over 125 people that showed up of all different cultures and backgrounds, and really appreciate the support of the school board. It means a lot to a lot of the community members to know that you're there and that you care. You know, the story of the blind man trying to describe the elephant, and each person felt that they knew the truth. You know, there's the guy feeling the ear who was sure the elephant was a fan, the guy feeling the tail, feeling that it was like a vine, and the one feeling the legs saying, no, 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 it's a tree. Well, it's only when we really can listen to each other and share our perspectives that we can build a community together where everybody can benefit, and nobody needs to lose anything. We all gain from being together. The truth is only revealed when we listen to each person's perspective. In conclusion, thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you.
Carolyn Bonastali. Mary Ann Stephanie. Harold Gibson.
Good evening. And I want to thank this board for several reasons. One, the efforts that you have done with equity and diversity and inclusion is very important, because there's a very serious problem, is that if we do not come together as a nation, we'll lose it. And I feel that what you are doing is trying to build that foundation with the young people in this community. And also, too, is as I listen to the group tonight, it's very interesting, because the last time I was here, I talked about planning our children so that they would be able to make decisions for the next 7 generations. And also, too, that it's important that they do this, because how are we going to make the present be worthwhile? The second part about it is that I thought about was, when I was growing up, the elders told me, education is your salvation. Think about that for a minute. Education is your salvation. How important is that? Because it says many things. It says, one, nobody can take anything away from you because you have your mind. And your mind is a beautiful thing. But also, too, as I listen, I hear the cries of the people here. And the things that they're talking about is, if we do not have adversity in our school, how is our children going to learn discipline? And if they don't learn discipline, how can they have respect, responsibility, and reverence? And when I mean reverence, I mean compassion for all of humanity. And this is very important as you think about these things that you talk about, because all of this is the sub-part of that. And I think the last part, which I've heard so much about, wisdom. Wisdom cannot be accomplished if knowledge is not tested. It comes through that test that we gain the wisdom and the insight and the critical thinking. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. Kudos to all of the students for all the fantastic accomplishments that they had. It's a great joy to hear so many young people doing forward things. And I want to thank everybody here for their sacrifices, their understandings, and even the hard times that they've gone through hearing from people who get upset. But we all are here for one thing, truth and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the speakers for this evening.
Sorry?
That concludes the speakers for this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Then that concludes the non-agenda related public comment section. I think we are about to wrap up for the evening, and so we'll wish everyone a very nice summer break. Can I have a motion then to adjourn, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.